All right, welcome everyone. This is a Viper Professional Training and Sport webinar. Today's date is December 23rd, 2019. This is a Monday night webinar, and the title of tonight's webinar is Identified Swings and How to Trade Lightning 1, 2, and 3. And as everyone knows that's been to our webinars or our live trading room, everything that we say and do at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, Forex trading, any kind of financial instruments trading involves risk. Therefore, there's always risk of loss. You should only trade discretionary capital, and that is money that you can afford to lose. Nothing said in this webinar, other webinars we have, our live trading room, or anything else with Viper Trading Systems should never be construed as trading or investment advice. And as always, everyone does trade at their own sole discretion. Any questions on the disclaimer? It's rainy where you're at, Mindy, right now? Yeah, it's nice outside where I'm at right now. It's pretty nice out. Yeah, definitely. Bear with me a second. I'm getting this question log. This silly thing does this every single day, and I still haven't gotten with them. Shows how diligent I am about checking on things, I guess. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. First, though, I want to show you something. Gene is a member of ours and actually handcrafted a knife and sent it to me. I want to show you this knife. This is gorgeous. This is the knife right here. Look at that detail in that thing. I mean, how in the world could somebody, craftsmanship just incredible on that. Isn't that gorgeous? Just a little hunting knife, or, you know, whatever a person wanted to use it for. And by the way, just real quick, and this is not, let me just show you here real quick. Gene actually has a website also. So if anybody needs a beautiful knife of any kind, just be sure and go to this website right here, because I can tell you this, that is a gorgeous knife. And these are Damascus steel knives. And if you've ever read about Damascus steel, they're actually forged and forged and forged to get these beautiful metal blades to look like they're etched and everything. These are really classy looking knives. Yeah, and you can virtually just go through his website and see all the different beautiful handles he makes and everything else. So anyway, just a little plug for Gene, because I love my new knife. And I just got it just about, probably 2.5 hours ago. All right, so I wanted to show that. All right, jtpugglesworth.com is the name of his website. So if you're needing anything like that, of course, you know, with him being a craftsman like that, and you want a beautiful knife that you could call a collector's item, I'd highly recommend him. They're gorgeous. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here. And I already went over the standard disclaimer, so let's get going here. Now, first off, let me show you something here real quick about lightning, okay? Because lightning, you know, basically, we've called it lightning for years. Let me get rid of this notification here. I don't know what that's doing. We've called it lightning for years. But, you know, basically lightning is just zigzags. It's the swings that are made on your charts. And whether you go with the smaller ones or the larger ones or whatever, you know, like for instance, if you stretch this out, you know, the overall you can clearly see is thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace, thrust, right? So you're actually heading in an upward situation as far as the overall trend is going, and you can clearly see that they thrust, they retrace, they thrust, they retrace, they thrust, okay? But then you look at the right-hand side of the chart, and you can clearly see that you are, at this time anyway, in a downtrend, right? Everybody see that? Because see, right here, and this is what we're interested in. We're interested in looking at the overall look just in case it flips around, but in most instances, we're looking at this side of the chart, or even as far over as here. But what you want to do is look at each thrust and then watch what they do afterwards, you know, and then look at the lows and everything, you know, and see where you might possibly want to get into a trade. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is more, you know, how to enter the trades and also how to exit the trades based on lightning. Because to me, lightning is super, super important. It's exactly the way I trade. It's the way I draw on charts. You know, by the way, I mentioned that oil would probably run after we close the room, and I've told you basically, you know, that the way it was acting in the room and everything, I just stayed away from it pretty much, you know, called the trades and everything, and you know, we got that one that was so-so, and then the one that didn't work out, and it even took some of my coin away from the one that I'd made earlier in the morning. But I ended up on the end of the day at 705, and I did not go with any 4 contracts or anything like that. 2 out of 1, and then just let it ride, but not letting it go back against me. And if you can eke out $705 on a day like today, you're actually doing pretty good. You could take chances with more contracts and just go for less ticks, and we can talk about some of that tonight too. But for instance, on this side of the chart, I think everybody can clearly see you have a high way up here at 40 and a low way down here at 60.81. So that's a 60 tick, basically thrust up, retrace. Okay. So then, now that you've seen this, what you want to do is you want to draw your lightning on your chart. Now, we've got some newer people in the room tonight, so I want to go over real quick, what lightning is and what this is right up here. Okay. This power meter 1, 2, 3, and 4 is just simply lightning 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. And if you don't know how to draw lightning, and I get a lot of questions on this, so obviously everybody doesn't know, you want to be sure and just highlight whatever lightning that you want, all right? And you want to hold down the particular hotkey that is designated in the parameters. And to make it easy, just remember Alt, Shift, Control, and back. Okay? So Alt, Shift, Control, and then backspace. And the Alt is lightning number 1, and Shift is lightning number 2. And all you have to do to get that on your chart or off your chart is simply, hold down, like for instance, the Shift key would be lightning 2, hold it down and left click, and you'll get it drawn. Okay. If it doesn't draw in the right spot, just do it twice. Okay. If you do it like 3 times, I'll show you what happens. And I don't know why this does this. That'll come up. Okay. The data series. So if you get that, just draw it again. It's not a biggie. Okay. To erase it, you do exactly the same thing, except opposite. You simply hold the Shift key in, left click, and off it goes. Okay. If you want more than one lightning on the chart, you can absolutely do that. Here's lightning 1 right here, and you can draw lightning 2 right on top of it if you want. Okay. And when we talk about lightning, basically what you want to get in the habit of understanding is what we call the identified swings. Let's go with lightning 2 for right now, because I want to show you a couple of things on it. And this may be repetitive to some people, but keep in mind that, there's new people, there's trial people, and there's people that just want to learn our system because they see that we're quite good at calling trades and getting in some very decent trades and not getting too whipped around. And you notice, like even this morning, for instance, Charles went ahead and stood down with a loss on ES, and just simply because it just wasn't doing it. And, it wasn't, I'm sure, much of a loss. It might have been $200 or more, or maybe even $3, I don't know. But I know for a fact that he was in ES, earlier, and we even called it and everything, and that's cool because that's what we do. But if you get in a trade and it doesn't work out, you don't want to just give them the farm, because if you looked at ES, you'll see that it pretty much chopped around all morning and then even went down lower, and then it might have been starting to come back up. I haven't really looked at it since then. Okay, but what you want to be most conscious of is what's called identified swings. Okay, you do not know when a swing is identified, like right here, until it takes out the previous high. Okay, that's pretty simple and basic to trading, but it's still very important, because this swing did not become identified until you took out that swing right there. So when this was taken out right here, I want to draw, there we go. When this was taken out right here, that identified that swing. Okay, so if you were trading this and this happened to start rolling over, and let's say that, just hypothetically, that it goes up a little bit further like that, then where is the identified swing? Well, you have a primary identified swing and a secondary identified swing. Okay, and you would just simply, bring your box up to here, because this is where you would be boxing in, if you saw this come down and start stair stepping back up. Now keep in mind that the larger the lightning you use, you're going to have to actually use the lightning 1 or 2 to actually get in the trade. Okay, and that's super important too. Let's get rid of this line here because that's not real. All right, and let's look at lightning 1 also, just for the fun of it. Okay, so looking to the left to trade the right, if you were in this situation right here and you feel that this is heading down, it looks like it is to me anyway. Basically you have, well, let's draw it. Lightning 3 is the control key, and let's go back a little bit further so we can draw it. From right up here is fine. Okay, that looks like a downtrend, doesn't it? So if you look over here, it is starting to stair step back up, but where is the identified swing on the left side of the chart? Anybody? It's right here. So for instance, if they don't take this area out, they've already checked it once, but if they don't take that area out right there, they're still heading down. Okay? Now, keep in mind, you can do some scalping and everything. For instance, if you see it bounce and, you get a higher low and you want to box in and take a shot at 7 or 8, 10 ticks, something like that, you can ignore what's going on this side of the chart, but I would highly recommend scalping it if you do. Because if you look at the overall chart, you'll see that you're also in that same downtrend. You can clearly see you have a high, you have a low. When does this become a lower high? When it takes out that swing. When does this become a lower high? When it takes out that swing. When does this become a lower high? When it takes out that swing. And it hadn't done it yet, but it double topped and then it took it out. So these are identified swings, and that's the most important part of trading Viper that I can possibly think of. Because until they take this out right here, at least at this time anyway, this is not an uptrend. And so you're looking for, for instance, mid-band trades, rollover, and possibly even phantom trades if it was up in here somewhere. I don't know where it's at on this particular chart because we don't have the scripts on here. We're just looking at the webinar scripts. And by the way, everybody's got access to this particular script, template. It's in the members area of our website. Okay? Louis says that knife makes him want to join the Army. Yeah, those are good looking, aren't they? Yeah, I like it. Matter of fact, I love it. It's sitting right here beside me. Pretty knife. All right. So let's look at the actual screen and let's see what's going on. All right. Now, let's look at this too, though, first. All right, let me stretch this out a little bit so you can see. Now, you can clearly see the way this has been heading. It's pretty much heading up, isn't it? As far as the overall, see how that's even a higher low right here than here? So this is definitely heading up at the time. Okay, so where would it take if this was to break what we call lightning 3? We have a yellow and a green, and you don't have another yellow and green as far as drawing the lightning 3 on here. Well, what I did is I basically manually drew these because this is actually what's happening with the thrust and retrace. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Louis is saying he likes the idea that this is being repeated because, it's like anything, it's muscle memory. And the more you learn this, the more you will actually do quite well in your trading. Okay. Now, what I personally see with the way this is thrust, retrace, thrust, just by my eyes, and I'm going to draw this, see where you can see it. I drew this like a thrust, a retrace, a thrust, a retrace, and a thrust. And I drew this one manually because that's what I see with my eyeball. Okay, now I don't think we've got the scripts to draw that, or do we? Is there actually a lightning 4 script? Let's see if it'll draw. Backspace and draw. We'll go ahead and draw it from right here. See if it will. No, I guess it'll draw from here. All right, that's lightning 4 right there. Okay, now notice how lightning 4 will go from your double numbers to another double number. and they have to be from yellow to green to yellow to green to yellow to green. It can't go yellow to yellow, and it can't go green to green. So that's why it draws as good as it does. So overall, this is actually basically an uptrend, isn't it? Now, if you were looking at this chart and you said, okay, when does this actually become a downtrend as far as the larger move? In other words, this thrust, this retrace, this thrust, this retrace, and this thrust. Well, you can clearly see it, right? Let me get rid of Lightning 4 and I'll show you. All right, this is the overall look of the chart right here. Okay, there you go. Several people already got it. A 69 break. Until it breaks 69, as far as the overall movement of how the market's going, you're not actually heading down. Everybody see that? Now this is actually noisy from up here. Let's draw it. See if we can draw it. See, it's kind of noisy right there, but see right here you've got even a higher low again. But now, where is the overall swing on this one here? Let's draw it. Try to train your mind to see this. You've got a thrust. All right. You've got a retrace right to there, but that's the same area right there within just a few ticks. So what I'd normally like to do in my mind is draw it down here instead. And then here. All right. And then down here. This is all I see so far. Okay. So basically on this side of the chart, you're kind of heading up. This is retracing right now. Okay. But for it to actually truly head up, it would have to break 20. Everybody see that? That's why when we draw on those charts and everything, for instance, if I was going to be looking for a long trade on this, they would pretty much have to break this right here for me to do so. Okay, and to go down, they'd have to pretty much break this. Okay, now if they were to retrace like to 10 and roll, I'd short it. If they retraced to 20 and rolled, I'd short it. If they were to do this instead and go up above 20 and then come back and kiss it, maybe not that high, but let's just say they went this high even, just something like that, then I would go long. Everybody see that? Now that's going to make you miss on a few trades here and there, but it's going to also keep you from getting whacked around, like crazy. Yeah, Gene's been trading 40 years, says just absolutely love that trade. Okay, now does that mean that you can't, for instance, let's say you were up at 12 o'clock in the morning and you saw this happening in real time. You know that you've been heading up, but they roll over at resistance like a double top and you box it in. Could you box this in right here and short that and see how it broke it and come back and kissed it and then rolled? Yeah. But when you look at an overall chart, though, you got to realize that, they're doing it in bigger moves and then retracing and then bigger moves again and then retracing, or they may break support. Okay. Now let's look at the actual chart and see if we can get some trades based on what we know. We know that it's got to go above 20 for us to ever go long, and it's got to go below 69 for us to ever go short, unless in the smaller frame of things, we don't take this out or this out and roll. Okay, so here's our sweet spot on this particular chart. Would be here if it rolled over, and it would also be here if it rolled over. Okay, that's your two areas of opportunity right there on this particular chart. Okay, without even looking at the other chart, you can clearly see that. Okay, so let's go to the actual chart and see what it looks like. And look what it looks like. There's 10, there's 20. Okay, so let's draw our little lines that we had drawn on the other chart just for the fun of it. So we have a thrust down. I'll change this to like a darker green so you can see it better. Where's my dark green? Anybody see that? I missed it. I'll just do, yeah, there's green. That's good enough right there. All right, that's our thrust. That's our retrace. And this is our thrust right now. All right, we're in this price range right here, right this very second. So basically they've done this. All right, now, have they taken out 10 yet? So again, you would simply be ready to short this if it rolls over here or if it rolls over here. Now, if it goes above 20, it's no longer heading down. Thrust, retrace, thrust. That is your identified swing. Everybody see that? In other words, right here, thrust. Let's change the color of this so it's bigger, or a different color for sure. Let's do indigo on that one, and we'll make it even thicker. Since that double top, that's fair, right? See there? Okay. So isn't this actually the identified swing on this larger move? Yes. And see, we were able to see it real well on the other one. So this tells you that this is a, like a minor type of a swing, but this is a large one. Well, 6110 is, Mindy. That's what I was saying. You could take this trade if it rolls over right here also. And I would definitely take that trade if it rolled over there too. Okay? Because, see, here, this is your overall, your big move. This is a little bit more your smaller move. And then your micro move, of course, is just this little zigzag around to get to these levels. Okay? So this is where I'd be looking for a trade, and this is where I'd be looking for a trade. Now, we don't have to trade Object Trader and everything. I just want to show you. Let's just see what actually happens. All right, it went through this one. It hasn't gone through this one yet. Okay. Now, does that mean you couldn't take a quick long above mid-band like this right here? I think I actually did on Friday, because you could box this in at mid-band for sure. It got higher lows on this side of the chart. It was trying to head up. You could box that and try to get to 10. If it goes higher, does it go to 20? Let's see if it does, or if it changes trends. We'll see. Now, wouldn't you think about shorting it right in here? Anybody? You could draw a trend line underneath the lows and short that puppy if it breaks it. Everybody see that? Now see, that actually got you in the trade. Tight stop. I'd probably go a close above line 6, or at least this next bar back. Close above it. I'll just put the line there. It's testing it. Didn't close. All right, you're still okay. All right, now see, that's micro lightning now that you're looking at. See how you have a high, a low, a lower high, and you're hoping for a lower low. Nice tight stop. Okay, and we took it based on a trend line break. All right, and you're in the trade. Yeah, we actually did. We called this trade in the room on Friday. We actually got the long trade, and I called a phantom trade for people that wanted it. But remember, I didn't actually take this particular trade until it broke support, simply because I was just getting out of my long. Now, one thing I want to show you, if you want to do this, you can actually, let's say, for instance, you box this here and you drew a trend line. You can reverse a trade on a trend line too. I'll show you how to do that on Object Trader. But I actually took this trade on Friday right there, because it was breaking what I considered to be my lightning swing. See, your thrust retrace, kind of a thrust up. It broke right here. So we talked about boxing this in right here, remember? Anybody remember that? Right in through there, right there at that line. And we actually got that trade. Matter of fact, I think we got filled at about 85 or so, 84. I'll have to look at my deal. But could you have shorted it there, because that was a phantom? Now, the reason that I didn't personally like the phantom is because I didn't quite diagnose it the way I'm doing it here. And sometimes, the problem is when you're trading live and you're looking at 4 charts, you don't see everything quite as clearly all the time. For instance, like this is your high, this is your low. All this did is kissed it and rolled, right? But this one kind of faked me on Friday because I saw this lightning 3, 1, 2, 3. So when this actually went above here, I was thinking, hey, this thing might go ahead and continue up. And I was long from here. And then we got out of the trade when it started going right underneath that swing. Remember? But did not flip it. But this was still a good entry too. Sometimes you just have to take the trade based on what you see in real time. Okay? All right, so we nailed that trade. All right? But does everybody see, if you diagnose this correctly, with the larger thrust, retrace, and thrust, that's your swing. This was not your swing. And that's when they'll fake you, is when they just barely go above these and then roll over because they never took this swing out. Okay? Now, like I say, you got to kind of train your eye to see this, because unfortunately they do 1, 2, 3, slop around a little bit, and then 1, 2, 3 like that. So basically you have to see it in your mind's eye. Okay, they went here, and then they went here. So that's your identified swing. Let's see, ordinarily you wouldn't take it if it broke 10. Well, Louis, on your question, I actually did call this trade in the room on Friday, right here, where we actually boxed it and we got 15 ticks, 12 to 14 if I remember right. And then we got this short also, but unfortunately I did not short it here because I was already still in my long. But I want to show you something real quick with Object Trader. Let's back this up for just a minute, and I'll show you, kind of in hindsight, but the trade was called though. So let's back this up for just a minute, and I'm going to get you to that exact trade, and we're going to diagnose this and use Object Trader the way you could use it. Okay, when I saw this happening right here, see where this had a high, a low, so it had a low, a high, a higher low, and basically if you box this silly thing in right here, that would actually be breaking lightning 2, for instance, and you could actually have gone long on this thing, especially if it kind of popped up and kissed this line. Let me show you what I'm talking about, because this actually does this all the time. See there? See how it just kind of pops up, pulls back? Can you take a trade like that when you start getting higher lows and everything? Because this trade was called in the room on Friday, because we were actually, let's see, this is at 8:01. See there? 8:01, so our room was already open. Now, keep in mind also that if you look at the overall, and to do it, you gotta train your eye to see it though, okay? Because when this came down like this and up like this and down like this, it did a lot of other junk in between too, didn't it? And that's where you got to really, train yourself to see, for instance, why I didn't go ahead and short this silly thing until it took out that swing that we were talking about. Okay, because what I was looking at was, I don't want to get faked on this thing, kind of like we did today. When they fake you in a trade and instantaneously take you for, several ticks, you got to kill it, just like Charles did on that ES trade today. I would venture to say that's probably the first day that I've personally seen Charles walk away with a loss, but it was just like, who cares? It was just one of those days. And ES just was not cooperating. Now, we got a monster trade that was called on YM that worked out great. Well, that's true, Mindy. That's one thing. Mindy says sometimes you just can't kill it fast enough, and it gets you for $300. If you've got even 2 contracts, you're absolutely right, because 15 ticks, can easily be in your face in just a matter of, no time at all. Let's go back on this real quick. I'm going to show you how I traded this on Friday and we called it. I'm going to back this up again to see if I can get it there. Try to get it back. There we go, 725. I'll just show you what this looked like at the time. All right, this is what we had at the time right here. Could you actually, for all intents and purposes, when you see a higher low like this and you're taking out the swing to the left, could you box this in? Anybody? And you can. Just hit your insert key, drag it to where you want it, turn it on, and since you're getting higher lows, I wouldn't really be looking so much for the short, and especially since you had a high, low, higher, high, you know, they were looking for longs at the time anyway, they were. Okay, and usually what you want to do, Mindy, on your question, if you do start with 2, you know, like this right here, let's just watch this in quick real time and let's see what this trade had you for at first. We'll do like 10 times to see if we can get this. And I usually like to do touch plus, and we'll see what we get. Yeah, I hate that too, Mindy, when it'll actually, you know, if you're ever unsure of the market, either don't trade it at all and then, you know, don't kick yourself if you miss a good trade, but, or one contract, step aside, exactly. Yeah, because it's easy. And there's another rule of thumb too. If you get bit once, first thing in the morning, there's always more trades, just stand down. Yeah, remember, we didn't take a lot of trades on oil this morning because I just flat said I don't want them. I didn't like them. But after the room closed, guess what it did? It thrust up, it pulled back, and it kissed, and it took off. And I grabbed that one. And I saw it give up the ghost, and I got out. It came within 4 ticks of my target. Did you take that one, Gene? Yeah, that one actually, after we closed the room, turned out to be a great trade. I drew my box and everything. It came within 4 ticks of that target. And I knew when it missed it, it was not going to hold. Yeah, that setup's great. All right, let's watch this just real quick. And another thing you can do too, you know, a lot of people like to just get, for instance, if you get in a trade, if you could get $300 on a trade, you know, fairly quickly and not go against you, that's definitely not a bad way to trade. Now, usually when I see something like this happening, like right here, I will go ahead usually and just hit the button. The reason is because I saw it hold this area right here. You don't necessarily have to get the box, okay? Because a lot of times then you can actually do much better. You can put your stop literally right there. You're risking 6 ticks. Now, will it wick you a lot of times? Yeah, you might want to fade it just about maybe a tick or two. Then you're risking 8. And that's $160. And if they blow through it, it's a $300 bill. There's no question about it, because they would fill you literally right down in here. Okay. Now, let me show you how you can actually trade this, though, and be ready for either way it goes, too. You know, for instance, see these lows that it's making right there? Okay, we're already in it, so could you then go to wedge, draw a wedge on your chart, like so, back it off just a little bit like I teach all the time, and then could you actually, if this decided, for instance, to take that out with like a touch plus like 2, could you actually get ready to short it? You know, what if this did decide that it wasn't going to go up? We know it did because we just watched it. But could you actually be ready just in case? You can turn on reverse. Yeah, just turn this on right here. You can do that with region also, by the way. You know, if you want to turn on with like a region, for instance, if I wanted to do a region on this instead, I would just go insert, bring my stop down, and then put a reverse underneath the bottom of that if it happened to break that. For instance, like that line 2, just bring it down a little bit further, because they a lot of times will wick this with one tick, and you don't want to reverse it on one tick, because they do that all the time, and even two ticks. But if you get below it a little bit and touch +2, you should be okay. Okay? Now, if you do a trend line, keep in mind that they usually follow a trend line, but if you do a box and you want to reverse it, you got to keep moving your box. You know, for instance, if this was to head up like it is, let's say that you wanted to reverse this if it went below there, and then if it went below mid-band. So you can actually do that. Okay? If it makes this box, you could then bring it up here. See what I mean? And you could turn this on. Okay? Because we already diagnosed it and said if it doesn't take out 20, that it would be heading down instead. You could then bring your box up a little tighter. And then see, even though you're in two, well, we're not in two now. So it got us our targets and everything. Okay? But if we were still in one, let's just pretend we're still in two. All right? And if it clicks this and reverses it, it'll reverse the trade. Okay, now watch it. It'll actually reverse the trade if it takes out that little, if you get a lower high and this happens to take this out, or you could turn on the lightning too. Okay, I'm just showing you this. Now we would have shorted this already anyway, but let's just do it where it reverses it, because Object Trader will reverse too. See if that goes, that's one tick. It's one tick again. There's two, and then there's the confirmation tick. And you would put your stop where? Just right above the higher low that it just made. So you're only risking 9 at the time. You could take some coin at any time, like at mid-band. You could go ahead and buy to cover one. Okay? Or you could just watch it. If you can drag it out of the way, you got still a good trade. Okay? Now, what I'd recommend doing if you want to really get more successful at trading is you've got to diagnose your charts like this. You almost have to blind yourself to all this noise, because there's so much noise on these charts, it's unreal. And when you're using smaller, tick bars, there's noise. Okay? But this is what's happening right now. Thrust, retrace, thrust. Now it's got this retrace, same high, just a little higher, not much. No, it's the same exactly. And then now you're heading down. Everybody see that? Okay, so now this has got a lower high, same high right here, but in other words, high, low, lower high, lower low. Okay, when they double top like this, redraw it in your mind, because what you want to do is you want to say, okay, this is what it did instead, because that double topped, and always look on the right side of the chart. So this is what it did right here instead. This was all noise. So you had a thrust, retrace, thrust. See? And until it takes that out, it's not really heading up. Yeah, that is one thing too. I want to mention that too. Gene said, I've seen way too many people take a winner and turn it into a loser by not understanding that you have to lock in profits. And that's the thing, for instance, when we're trading in that trading room and everything, for instance, you could have already taken coin on this one right here, because obviously this is going all the way back up to mid-band, okay? And is it going to try to roll over? Doesn't look like it just yet. Remember this trade on Friday? I called this one out live. I remember it now. Remember this trade we did not take right here, but we drew our box and it went back in the box and then it rolled out of the box, if I remember right. I'm almost positive it did. But see where this came back and kissed, actually? They come back and they kiss these swings. There's a swing right there on the left. See your thrust, retrace, thrust at 94. Then there's another swing right here at 81. And that's pretty much where they kissed, see it? And they rolled. But one thing I'd highly recommend too, if you've got a certain amount of money that you want to make on an average day, if you get a trade that actually gets that, then take that coin. Because for instance, if you were only looking for like $600 for the day, do you need to trade any more than this right now? Could we add one if it happens to go outside that box with a closed bar? It doesn't look like it got it for us, but we'll take it anyway because it did roll over. Okay, now always make sure to put your stop nice and tight. Okay, you got to learn to, you know, if you can get some coin, for instance, if this was to decide, hey, I'm in 2 right now, you know, I've got support down here at the bottom, like so. I'd probably want to take at least one off if it happens to come down there. Okay, and you could actually just go ahead and put, well, to give an example, you could even put this. You say, you know what, if they come down to the bottom and touch it +2, I'll take 1 off. That's scaling is what that is. You know, now I could tighten my stop again a little bit more. I could even tighten it up here just in case, because that is an identified swing, right? Thrust, retrace, thrust. Not quite yet, so I'd probably lag it back just a little bit, like that. I think my stealth is off a little bit. I'll have to fix that because that's not right on stealth right there. I reinstalled Ninja because I'm doing some testing. Let's see. Anybody have any questions on this thus far? Because the most important thing that a person can learn is there are 4 trends on your charts. Okay, we're trading literally all of them, but you got to be careful when you're going against the overall trend, because you know when we drew this overall trend on this side of the chart at the time was starting to head down, right? Because you had a thrust, retrace, thrust. Now remember, you've got a larger trend and then you've got this smaller trend. This is your smaller trend. I'll change the color so you can see the difference. This is what's actually gone on in real time, is like that. And this is still a downtrend when you get a lower high. And that is definitely a lower high than before, right? So you have a high, low, lower high, and you don't know it's lower high until it takes that out. Okay. Now in the bigger move, it's thrust, retrace, thrust. And so you could redraw this like this. Okay. Draw it in your mind and everything. But now what would it take for this to actually change to an uptrend? Anybody? If you're looking at this particular chart, I see 20, but we don't have any other lightning 3 right now, so all I see is 20 right now. Has to break 20, that's right. Now, if this was to do this, let's say that this did something like this. You went up and you went down, so you got your resistance on the left. But what if it did this? Well, let's say it went above mid-band. Let's just say it did. It did, actually. And then it pulled back. When would you know to go long on that trade? Anybody? If it broke that, right? Because you'd have to have a higher low, and you might be able to box it. Let's say that they were doing a little dance and you saw it make a higher low and you're gutsy and you want to go ahead and trade that trade if it made some bars side by side, you know, but the least chance of losing it would be if it took out the swing. If this turned out to do this. Now, obviously it didn't do that, but if it did, that's your safest bet right there. Because if you box it here, what if it went up just a little bit, gave a lower high, and then rolled over? You can't go against the overall trend. You know, because when you're looking at swings on charts, you got to get away from seeing all this noise. Okay? Because even though these are noisy charts, you can clearly see on this side of the chart, I'll draw it here. Let's just draw it from right here. You had a thrust, you had a retrace, right? And you had another thrust right up there, because they got to take out the high, remember? So all that other stuff's noise. And then they pulled down, and they didn't take this out until way over here. So technically, that's what it was doing right there, okay? And the rest of this, again, is just noise. And, you know, to train yourself to see this, you got to get to the point where you look at this particular chart more often to see what's really going on, okay? Because this will pretty much tell you what's happening, you know, without looking at all those bars and everything. You know, you can tell by looking at this chart. Let's just see if we can tell real quick. I'll do this at like 500 times, and we'll draw lightning 2. Now, is that an uptrend yet? See, it's kind of double bottoming a little bit, but is that an uptrend yet? No. See there, without seeing all the bars and everything, where you can kind of see what's going on? Still heading down so far, isn't it? Is that an uptrend yet? Yeah, you'd have to, in this case right here, right now, for this to change to an uptrend, you'd have to take out 67. Now you'd have to take out 49, right? See, it kissed 49, but it didn't take it out. Now, to me, this still wouldn't be an uptrend until, if you look at the overall, let's slow this down for a second. All right, so you have a thrust, retrace, thrust. This is what you've really got on the chart right now, is this right here. Just draw it like so. We'll even get rid of lightning 2 for just a minute so you can see it. And we'll draw, let's see, green to yellow. But if yellow's the same, you don't draw it there, so I'll draw it here instead. And then green to yellow. Yellow to green, that is. And then to yellow. And then to green. And now we don't know. We do know that 67 right at this very moment is the swing that's identified, okay? But let's see what it does, just for the fun of it. It's going 500 times, so let's see what it does. It must have been a pretty good thrust down for it not to print. Let's see what it gets. Oh wait, I was printing that, wasn't I? Let me draw the lightning. Sorry about that. Let's get rid of these other lines, just for the fun of it. There's your lightning. Okay, so it would have to take out what? It's got a higher low. $51. That's exactly right. So if 51 is taken out, they would probably, very possibly, give you a little thrust, but you'd have to watch 67. If they didn't break that, they're still in a downtrend as far as the secondary swing goes. Let's see what happened. Okay, so could you have been long on this right above 41? Yes. But always look to the left to trade the right, and be very careful, because it could have gone up to 51 and rolled over. So I look on the left side first instead of the right side, because even though this went up, see, it didn't take out 67. So is this still actually heading down? Let's watch it and see. It's going 500 times, so it'll draw fairly quickly and everything. We'll see. So all you got to do is see the incomplete thrust and retrace, see where it has to go to change trend. Absolutely. See how that was just a lower high right there? Now, did that change the background to green? Possibly. But see, your overall is still pretty much to the downside. And this is what, 12:30 on Friday? Let's just let it play out for a little bit and see what it does. Tell me when it changes trends, anybody? Now, does this mean that you can't go ahead and buy these support levels? You know, when it comes down to these support levels, you can actually absolutely buy those. Okay? But when you're trading, you got to train your eye to see all this, because believe me, you know, when it's just going sideways, it's just noise. Okay? You would need to take out 62 for this to head up as of right now. Now, keep in mind that this is starting to get higher lows and everything, and this is probably just in a channel. But let's see. It's going 500 times, so that's as fast as I can get it to go. Let's see if we can get it to today. This is, well, this is last night. Let's just let it go and see what it does. Now, on this side of the chart, on this side, you actually have a low, a high, a higher low, and a higher high. You got a higher set of lows here, but not taking out the high. So technically, this is your identified swing right there. Could you buy this down here if you saw this and you box it? Yes. But that's when you want to scalp it, because when you're in a range, you got to scalp it. I don't know if I ran out of replay or what. Let's do it on Lightning 2 and see if it'll draw. Oh, that's all we're at. Even at 500 times, it must have slowed way down. Let's see. I have a hard time telling when to sell resistance, like it has stopped going up and it's time to short. Well, looking to the left to trade the right is what I'd recommend on that. Because to me, when I look at this chart right here, you know, on the left side of the chart, I definitely see 51 as a high you'd need to take out to change trends. And then I like to go one more up like that, simply because you have a low, high, lower, low, lower, high, lower, low. So that's like your ABC. So to me, until they take out like that 68, they're not really heading up yet. See, and they're still heading down somewhat. All they're doing is just kind of going sideways. Now let's look at the actual chart, see if there were some trades in there. Here's one thing I want to show you too, also on here. When you get this background right here, try to get out of the habit of doing any mid-band trades at all. Just strictly go for the phantom. And if it gives you 10 or 15 ticks, power to it, and don't take anything else when it's in here. You know, if it gives you another phantom and you box it and it goes up a few ticks and right back in your face, get out of it. When it changes trends and you get this one, that's a phantom. That's fine. Okay? But get in the habit when it's in this sideways stuff like this. You know, we've already drawn on our chart, and we know this did do a beautiful one at about 10:30. Could you trade this long the way we teach when you get a thrust and pull back in the mid-band? Yes. But keep in mind, looking to the left to trade the right, on your larger swing, it just barely took it out. When it's minimum criteria in the neutral background, Alan, I wouldn't personally touch it. If you're in this background right here, like that one, I would only take the phantom trade. And if they fake you, now I don't personally like phantoms unless they have a bar completely go into this area. You have to have it, at least one bar give you that whole bar, or at least most of that bar in this area right here. And I like to get down as close to line 1 as possible. And see, that one didn't do it, and then it did do it here, but then it was turning red, so you don't take it. That is a phantom right there, though. That was about closing time, though, on Friday. Okay? Now, does that mean that you can't take some of these trades like this? For instance, if you saw this and this happened to thrust up and does a phantom, and it pulls right back into mid-band, and you clearly see that they're starting to stair step up, can you box that in? Yes. But be very careful, because until you take this out, you're not really heading up at the time. But you can, just like we teach, box these in at mid-band. You know, you could have boxed this in and never went up. You know, you can box in anytime you want. Where I would not box in at mid-band is in this color background. And another time I would not do it, and we had this morning, if I remember right. Let's see. We still got this going 500 times, but they're just dead slow. This is like 10 o'clock yesterday morning. Let's just take it all the way up to 5 o'clock p.m. so it'll at least move, or let's go to midnight. 3 in the morning's even fine. Okay, see, here's a phantom right here. Or I might have not, I don't think I've got any data. It's not moving, so maybe I didn't get anything but 22 recorded on my data. That's probably what it is. I'm just out of data. But anyway, this morning, let me go ahead and show you one more thing, and then we'll wrap. I want to go to the real data, turn off the market replay, and go to, let's go to one of my logins here, just a second. Well, oh, there it is. Okay. Room is closed tomorrow, Louis, on your question. Yes. Now, this is weird. You know, Top Step may have turned off their data, possibly, because I've got a Top Step date on, and I'm not even getting data now either. Oh, they did, Gene says. Okay. Well, I can't even show you what it did today, but we actually had like some really sideways. One thing I'd highly recommend watching when you're trading, when they have this color of midband or the rose color midband, you can trade both directions, but you want to be really careful doing so. Just scalp and don't let them go against you. Okay? Yellow midband or even rose color. And when they have the striped shirt effect, you got to be careful with midband trades, period. Okay? The best trade on this one was right here. This is a phantom trade right here. Okay? You know, I hope this started to help everybody out some, because, you know, the whole thing about trading is there's people out there to get your money. There's not a question about it. You know, we're trading even against each other as far as that goes. You know, when you think about it, you know, it's a game where somebody loses and somebody wins continually, right? So when you're trading, just like we did this morning, you know, when we got zapped on that one trade, you notice that we didn't go into just going into a bunch of other trades, because you don't want to just keep getting zapped around. Now, let me see if they happen to do they may have turned it all off. I'll find out. I'm going to load YM and then we'll go. Hey, Merry Christmas to you too, Louis. Let's see, did they turn it off? Yeah, they literally turned the data off is what they did. Because this is 1220 right here, so there is no data coming in right now on Top Step. So I can't even show you that great trade that was called on YM this morning. But also keep in mind, if you happen to get a good trade, let's say that you got this trade right here. Let's say you were up at 6:45 in the morning. Does everybody see, by the way we teach lightning and everything, where you could get out of this trade? See that stair stepping up, stair stepping up? When did it quit stair stepping up? Right there. It was no longer stair stepping up when they took out what we call the identified lightning swing, or when they started taking out the previous swing to the left. Okay. Now, if you were to say, well, you know, I'll go one further than that. I'll go at this area. Here's a little swing area right here. you know, then it bounced at it, and that's fine. I guess you could stay in it, but you got to keep in mind that when you're trading oil, you're 24 ticks from there to there, and that's too much for me to give up. I just don't like it. Try to get these trades like this. When they're stair stepping up, grab these, grab these, grab these. And then when they quit working, you got to get out of them. Okay? I hope this helped everybody. You know, it was just basically about Lightning 1, 2, and 3. I hope it helped everybody. And I hope it helps you to trade better. We're gonna be closed tomorrow. Keep in mind there is trading tomorrow. If you're trading your live account, if you want to just play around or something, you know, you're welcome to. We won't have the room open though.